Nali igazi lethu.
Usibekele mawani alala.
Nali
Igazi lethu lisikhondisile.
Igazi lethu liphalele.
Lisikhondisile.
Mabubuya. Yesibithe kantoni ke kanti?
Yingqiqo yesizalo sendawo.
Kanti lintoni na idini lomzi?
Isibeleko somhlaba.
Singawona.
Sithunakele.
Mabubuye umnyama.
Idlaka liyaduma. Idlaka liyaduma.
Nali igazi lethu.
Igazi.
Masisabeleni ithelo lobuni bethu.
Lethu.
Sikele ubugu bendalo yethu.
Idlaka liyalunywa.
Thank you, everybody. That was a performance by Mandla Mbothwa. It's a cleansing ceremony for this space, for the various UCT spaces whose artworks have spoken of a time from the past. And I am Jay Papa. I'm the chair of the Works of Art Committee, and we're going through the campus to shift the iconography and and try to work out ways in which the iconography on the campus is more reflective of what this particular moment is in our history. And the Works of Art Committee is doing this through various ways. One of the ways we're doing it is to reimagine the Molly Blackburn Hall, and over the next 2 weeks you'll see people coming in here to hang various works that are in the collection, and then slowly we are going to acquire new artworks to work with various other spaces. So that's one of the things we're doing, as well as developing a website for you to engage with and give off your own opinions about what you would like to see on the campus and how you would like to see this contemporary moment reflected better on our campuses. One of the works that has developed a great deal of controversy and debate is the Sarah Bartman sculpture, which is in front of the library by Willie Best. That work, as you know, was robed at one point, and in the past few weeks it has become derobed. There was a debate on Tuesday with Willie Best, the artist himself, and I would just like to call upon from the Black Academic Caucus and also Chair of the Transformation Committee for Humanities, Professor Dr. Shose Khesi, who will address you on this particular subject, and then we'll wrap up with a short speech by yet another speaker. Thank you very much.
Hello, good afternoon. I've been asked to read out a statement, and just to say that this statement was crafted by the AGI, so African Gender Institute, and Black Academic Caucus Women's Collective. And it's a collective of Black academics, Black women academics at UCT. And it's on the subject of the Sarah Bartman sculpture. It's called The Place of Sarah Bartman at UCT. The label Hottentot Venus continues to haunt our memory of Sarah Bartman. This moniker used in John G. Rose posters to advertise the exhibit of Sarah may have been repudiated by renowned scholars such as Pumla, Paula, Zine Magubane, Yvette Abrahams, Patricia Hill Collins, Sandra Gilman, among others. But it has persisted as the lens through which Sarah's story is seen. Her story came down to us in history, captured by the icon of the Hottentot Venus. Most images of Sarah that we encounter today are derived from exaggerated prints and caricatured sketches, such as those by William Heath, feeding into the sadistic frenzy of the 19th century scientific racism. So ingrained has this incessant disgrace become that being an accomplice in the pathological scrutiny of her body is regarded as civil. These images reflecting the psychopathy of colonialism are all there has been in piecing Sarah's story into a visual history. The image of Sarah at the University of Cape Town is part of a global predicament, but one that has to reckon with the violence of the visual images at our disposal and what they convey about those who consume them merely as objects. In the year 2000, the South African artist Willie Bester unveiled his sculpture of Sarah Bartman that was acquired by the University of Cape Town for permanent display. Made from steel objects welded together, the sculpture depicting Sarah with chains at her feet is a life-size mechanical machine-like figure. It is an assemblage of industrial debris, evoking a critique of the paradigms of scientific racism, but one that instrumentalizes Sarah's body. Besta has visited the Musée de l'Homme in Paris, where the plaster cast of Sarah's body and separately her skeleton were displayed. Many reinterpreted images like this one are based on caricatures and on the plaster cast of Sarah, which was made by the scientist Georges Cuvier after he dissected her body for scientific study. Up until the 1970s, Sarah's remains were on display at the Musée de l'Homme. The display was removed after vigorous campaigns against the violation of her dignity as a specimen of study. Upon coming into office, Nelson Mandela's request for the repatriation of Sarah's remains joins an already powerful feminist campaign. Diana Ferris's poem, I've Come to Take You Home, underscores the significance of that collective call for Sarah's dignity, and by extension the dignity of all women, specifically black women. Sarah's remains were eventually returned in 2002. So monumental and powerful was the return of Sarah's remains that a number of artists were engaging with the visual tropes of the Black Venus in relation to Sarah as person. Artists such as Bongo, Senzeni Maracela, Tracy Rose, and others re-envisioned the image of Sarah in the contemporary visual landscape. And abroad, American artists such as Renee Cox referenced images of Sarah to question the place of the Venus in the art historical canon, parodying iconic modern European ideological construction of the white Venus in relation to the representation of the black female body. Sarah's presence at UCT is therefore not incidental, nor is it simply a sculpture made out of steel parts. Rather, it is the manifestation of the collective voice for dignity. Because of this, we cannot ignore that collective voice and social complexity that brings us to this point. In 2015 and again 2016, black women students collectively, through public ceremony, clothed her with a Kangan head wrap to give Sarah her dignity. By doing so, black students echoed earlier protests. No doubt the dressing of Sarah has stimulated fresh debates about the representation of women in art on the university campus, but has been interpreted as censorship in one-sided, misinformed and sensationalist online articles and ground-up. Until recently, Sarah remained covered up until early this year. Then, as though a thief in the night, the UCT librarian, William Daniels, removed the Kangan head wrap, missing the point about the so-called covering. He was applauded by the conservative corner at UCT. Daniels is hailed as a hero for insisting on the pathological obsession with naked black bodies in visual culture. Why would a white man see the need to derobe a sculpture in order to expose a naked Sarah Baartman yet again? This is the question that Professor Lelwani Ramgondo asks. Is this not a question the heroic Daniels should have asked himself, considering the historical and political complexity of Sarah's story, which this sculpture represents? In his response, he stated that his removal of the kanga and head wrap was not disrobing, because only a person can be disrobed, and the sculpture is not a person. And it was not clothed, but covered up with cloth. While his comprehension of visual politics leaves much to be desired, the assertion that the sculpture should not be clothed because it is not a person is simplistic. Firstly, artworks evoke ideas and memories beyond the object. Much like the way in which the term Hottentot Venus reduced Sarah into a hypersexualized fantasy object, the public assertions of those like Daniels bring us full circle back to looking at a representation of Sarah and seeing a stark object, forgetting what it stands for. Secondly, it conflates the exaggerated, deceitful narrative about artworks being systematically destroyed and censored at UCT with a separate and considered engagement with an artwork. The Sarah Baartman sculpture was not covered from head to toe, as the photographer David Goldblatt claims, One wonders if he has actually seen it. Is it that difficult to tell the difference? The process of engaging this work is precisely to understand what it evokes as it stands at the entrance of the Science and Engineering section of the main library at UCT. The impatient and impetuous action of removing the kanga and head wrap has not only disrobed us, but has robbed us of that much-needed space for multifaceted debate and discussion. Daniel's action, reflecting the intolerant attitude in post-apartheid South Africa, however, does demonstrate that the haunt of the Hottentot Venus continues to cloud our vision of Sarah's life. We are trapped into a prosaic discussion about the object as a sculpture and as fine art that should be seen and displayed but never engaged with critically. And forget that Sarah has become symbolic, representing a significant majority of women at UCT and beyond. Taking the robes off so unceremoniously is to shame all of us, reminding us once again how black women's bodies easily become the repository for violent histories. It is a particular kind of public shaming that is reminiscent of the violating spectacle that the black body has been and continues to be. Bell Hooks captures this in her definition of the sadistic public shaming of black women in her book, Ain't I a Woman, Black Women and Feminism, and she says, rape was not the only method used to terrorize and dehumanize black women. Sadistic floggings of naked black women were another method employed to strip the female slave of dignity. In the Victorian world, where white women were religiously covering every body part, black women were daily stripped of their clothing and publicly whipped. Slave owners were well aware that it added to the degradation and humiliation of female slaves for them to be forced to appear naked before male whippers and onlookers. End of quote. This is intertwined with the pleasure of looking at that humiliation. The question arises, why was it so important to Daniel? What does it change for him personally? What has become overwhelmingly apparent is that although Daniels had acted individually, he has garnered so much support that it signals a terrifying social malaise. What does looking at the still surface of the Sarah Baartman sculpture reflect about those who want to continue to look at the representation of Sarah as the Hottentot Venus? All this in light of the fact that the rationale of dressing her up and no indication of any intent to destroy the work was clearly presented as a contemplation about Sarah's dignity, women's dignity. This, perhaps, is what has been troubling about responses from artists and art critics to this particular matter. That is, the canon of the Venus as the perpetual vulnerable nude, the fantasy object of male desire. The male gaze continues to normalize unutterable violence. For most interlocutors in the art world, the object seems to matter more than the human tragedy it symbolizes. It is not just a sculpture, it is not just a piece of cloth, it is centuries of trauma. The prerogative of looking but not being seen characterizes imperialist power. This is manifest in a number of absurd demonstrations of power. For example, the incident of the policing and harassment of women wearing bikinis on a beach by police in France, where women are stripped. To look at a clothed sculpture of Sarah Baartman is perhaps the disruption of this sadistic pleasure of looking. It is to ask, what do you see when looking at Sarah? Not just as a sculpture, but an intricate symbol. It asks us to question the Hottentot Venus complex implicated in the looking and prodding of her naked body. The Sarah Baartman sculpture at UCT mirrors the insistent violence on her body, and until we listen to the collective voice calling for her dignity, we will forfeit the chance of understanding her significant place at UCT.
Thank you very much, Shose. we're going to call this event to a close, and I would urge you to spread the word that there is this move to recurate the university and the university's walls through the Works of Art Committee, and also other organizations such as the Black Academic Corpus and various other bodies that are doing a range of things. It's just also to understand the power of symbolism and how symbolism shapes the way we treat each other and the way we treat the human. So thank you very much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you at the opening of this gallery, this space, which will have a series of new works at the beginning of the next term. Thank you very much.